30 years of hiring, I look at where in their CV they've put their hobbies. That's the very first thing I look at.
Really?
I don't care what their last job. That's the first. Doesn't mean I ignore the rest of the CV.
Yeah.
I can tell you today, the assessment centers that we run for our clients, emotional intelligence is a very, very high factor.
ليه حسيت كده في عينيك في حاجة
Very emotional topic.
أهلا وسهلا بيكم في حلقة جديدة من بودكاست 9 من 10. حلقة النهاردة لكل واحد بيحاول يجرو أو يتطور، يحاول يتغير، يحاول يلاقي الطريق اللي يمشي عليه، either the right direction or the right path. أو في ناس بتقرر في النص تشفت كارير، بيحسوا إن هم قعدوا وقت طويل بيعملوا نفس الحاجة لكن هم بيعرفوا يعملوا حاجة تانية خالص. أو للناس اللي حقيقي عايزين يدليفر فاليو أو يدوا قيمة في الليفل اوف uncertain world اللي احنا عايشين فيها، different dynamics والليفل اوف uncertainty العالي قوي ده. عشان كده احنا النهارده بنستضيف معانا اللي يقدر يجاوبنا على الأسئلة دي. أهلا يا إدوارد.
يا هلا بيك.
إدوارد، أول سؤال بس بنسأله في 9/10 بودكاست هو عرفنا بنفسك بالطريقة اللي تحب الناس تعرفك بيها.
هو سؤال بسيط بس يمكن ليه قيمة كثيرة. And I always used to say إنه when we leave الناس تذكرنا بطريقة معينة. And I think for me it's always been he lived by being in the service of others. وما بتكلمش أنا طبعا إنه service of others حاجات في بلاش أو whatever it might be. I think service of others عندنا نحن كلنا responsibility. بالشغل we are in the service of our clients. We still have to provide a service and they pay for it. But at the end of the day we recognize إنه كل الشغل اللي نحن نعمله every single project we get is for their sake. We would not exist without them. At the same time, it applies to our personal lives. I tell this to my team. I tell this to family members. If we can live knowing إنه إحنا we are there for the service of others, I think we live a healthier life and a much more fulfilling one.
What kind of service you mean?
Look, it could be anything, right? How many times do we see somebody in need and the brain might say or the heart might say, I want to help, I want to stop. But the brain says, عندنا معاد, عندنا this, it's none of your business. I think in today's world, we have this particular mentality or this wiring that's happened where it's each person to themselves. And the service of others can happen in the workplace, not just in your personal life. It can happen when somebody is struggling, when somebody needs help, but it's out of scope. مثل ما بيقولوا. And we say, we have a decision to make. Do I help? Do I take a few minutes out of my time that can impact somebody else dramatically? But it only cost me 2 or 3 or 5 minutes of my time. Or do I value my time so much more than everybody else's that I don't care? For really, it's these scenarios in life that we're faced upon. The same as at home, when somebody says, you know, can you help me? Can you do this? We're very quick to do that with family members. And there's no reason we can't apply that to every part of our lives as well. And keep that mindset, that frame of mind that we're there to help others. And if we do, it'll come back tenfold, if not 100-fold. When, I don't know. But I think there's a fulfilling moment that happens. I used to always tell my team that every night when you put your head on the pillow, you have to be able to say, I did the right thing. And this is, you know, you conclude every single day thinking, I lived today to the fullest. I did what I believed was the right path. And I think that encompasses being in the service of others.
But the right thing is variable from one to another, because perhaps I believe in the right thing بالنسبة لي إني أحافظ على بيتي بشكل معين. و someone else believe in the right thing is helping others. وفي حد ثالث ممكن يفكر إن the right thing هو I deliver a specific value or a certain value. والرابع يفكر إن I'm an academic ف I have to make a researches بحوث وكده لحد ما أوصل لنتيجة معينة يمكن تفيد البشرية. الفكرة هنا إزاي نalign كلنا على إن whatever the right thing is إيه it should be a value وإحنا لازم نحس بالvalue دي.
Absolutely. And the value means different things to different
صح.
people.
صح.
It's what we place on it.
Yes.
And I'm going to use our business as an example.
Yeah.
We're in the consulting business.
Oh.
And it's a very competitive space. And there are often times when the client comes and they're looking for a particular thing, and we feel that it's not, I can deliver it. I can pocket the money and say, Wallahi, but this is what you asked me for. I gave you what you're asking for. But if I don't feel right that what we've done or what we've delivered was not right for them, am I willing to do it for the sake of $1? Am I willing to do it to say the business is booming, it's growing, they came and asked me? I think we have to sometimes dig a little bit deeper into our conscience, into our belief system. كلنا عندنا a variety of beliefs. And I cannot judge another person إذا هو في باله اللي بيعمله صح and it's the right path. It's not my place to judge them. Every individual gets to judge themselves. But I think it is that example, the value proposition, الacademic, الريسيرش بتاعه طبعا ممكن ياخد سنين. والend result is a long way beyond that. But if he has a belief system in what he's doing improves even the slightest of lives, even his own. It doesn't have to be somebody else. And he genuinely believes, or she genuinely believes in the work that they're doing, this is a very important aspect. There are times in life I think you're tested. And this is where that value and the judgment or the belief system starts to come in. We are tested on, are we willing to stand by a set of principles, whatever those principles are, and do the right thing? Or will we cut corners? Will we try to cheat someone? Will we try to provide a lesser service or a lesser value of myself? And people are tested every day on this.
طبعا.
اللي عنده شغل الدوام بتاعه من 9 ل 5 كل يوم، بس هو عارف بنفسه في آخر اليوم هو يمكن مشتغل ساعتين. انا ما بقولش انه لا لازم يروح يقول لمديره انه بص انا اشتغلت ساعتين مش ال8 أو 9 ساعات فادفع لي بس الساعتين دول. Of course not. There's a give and take في الكلام ده
طبعا.
بس الضمير بتاعه انه هو عارف انه انا قاعد اشتغل ساعتين هم بيدفعوا لي 8 ساعات 9 ساعات. الضمير بتاعه لازم يقول له انا بكره هعمل ايه اللي اقدر اغيره that I can genuinely feel that I am a contributing member of society, that somebody is paying me a salary, housing allowance, cars, whatever it might be. I must return that. And if I'm treated well, why am I abusing it? This is that balance that we're always fighting within ourselves and the test that we have.
So let me elaborate more on the consultancy service اللي بتقدمها. ايه هي نوع الكونسلتنسي اللي انت بتقدمها للكوربريتس او different او who are your clients وبيبقوا عايزين ايه؟
Excellent question. Our clients are corporate clients predominantly. ما عندناش clients on an individual basis. الفوكس بتاعنا أولاً on culture transformation. We work on culture transformation with companies, and that is a very big space for us. اليوم الشركات بيبصوا على الكالتشر بتاعهم and they recognize that something might be broken. الناس بتيجي دوام الفلوس موجودة revenues and is entering بس الناس ما فيش connectivity. It's lacking the human touch. It's lacking the desire to belong to an organization. And when the culture of a company is weak, people look elsewhere. بقول لك أنا ده مش بيتي مش شايف نفسي هبقى هنا 5 سنين أو 10 سنين.
I don't belong.
Exactly.
لا أنتمي.
So culture transformation is a very big part of our work, and it's a lot of fun, but طبعا it's a lot of work. We work with top down. We start with the CEO and their team. We look at what does that culture look like? What do they want it to be? What would they be thrilled with, and create the right environment. A second very big part of our work is in what we call capability development. Hina, it's the leadership programs, management training, sales enablement, executive coaching, assessment centers all fall into that space. And we've created, through hit and miss, we learned early on in the setup of the company, what made sense going back to in the service of others. how can we create a unique experience, not just for people to attend the training وبعد يومين 3 أيام بيرجعوا الدوام ما
خلاص.
فيش حاجة اتغيرت، الإيميلات موجودة، الديماندز، الديدلاينز كلها. So we built our methodology on creating a difference, which was a very, very big part of our values. ثالث حاجة is our gamification, business simulation and team building initiatives that we run. And these all مع الرغم طبعا كل حد بيسمع team building من نوع عاوزين
it's fun
to have fun.
yes let's do it.
Yes, but there has to be a business value.
طبعا.
ما حدش هيصرف فلوس عشان نحن to have a
to
great
have fun
time.
only.
It's important, of course, but we always try to derive a value out of that. So our consulting spans those 3 areas in different forms, different types. We've been very fortunate with the type of clients that we've worked with over the years. A company that started in Dubai, we've expanded and we work on projects from as far as Paraguay and Brazil to Vietnam and Thailand and China and everything in between.
Touch wood.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. طيب Edward, when we talk about transformation in companies, أنا بشوف إن أهم transformation أو التحول هو المايند سيت أهم من أي شيء. لأن لو ما فيش المايند سيت، لو عملت إيه بالذي nothing will be changed. هيبقى عندنا تشيك ليست بس في الكوتشنج أو التريننج، تشيك ليست الاتش ار يقول لك تمام جو اهيد، لكن نرجع تاني يوم عندنا نفس المايكرو مانجمنت للليدرز، وبتلاقي ناس محطوطه في بوزيشنز مش فيتنج السكيلز بتاعتهم. فهو حتى لما انت كنت بتحكي اللي قاعد من 9 ل 5، هو انا ما بشوفش قوي ان 9 من 5 دي هي اهم حاجه. هو الفاليو اللي انا بقدمها، اصل انا ممكن اقعد اشتغل 4 ساعات وادي فاليو مور ذان كده، وفي ناس تانية ممكن تيجي وتقعد فاتحة اللي بيشتغلوا فيه ويمشي الفاليو اللي قدمها أقل بكتير. ليه؟ عشان هو عنده مشكلة إن هو حاسس إن هو مش في المكان المظبوط، إن مديره مش هو مستني مديره يبقى شايف له باصص له في الساعة 9 دلوقتي تمام، بس أنا ما شفتش حد بيبص في الساعة يقول لحد الساعة 5 امشي. لا دي خليك انت تمام كده مكمل، ان شاء الله تمشي الساعة 10 بالليل، بس أهم شيء حتى لو مشيت الساعة 12 بالليل تكون عندي الصبح الساعة 9. الليفل ده بتاع المايند سيت وبتاع المايكرو مانجمنت I think مهما بتعمل لهم ترانسفورميشن، انت ازاي هنا بتغير ده؟
البرسبكتيف اللي بتتكلم عليه is 100% the biggest challenge in industry today. And it has to be اقول لك انا where it fails. If it is not a top down approach. انا ما اقدرش كسي اي او اقول للفايس بريزيدنتس او سينيور فايس بريزيدنتس اوف ماين اعملوا كده اعملوا كده وظبطوا ده وغيروا الاتيتيود ده، بس انا الاتيتيود بتاعي والمايند سيت بتاعي متغيره.
ستوب داون طبعا.
وذس هابنز ايفن ات ذا لور ليفلز. خلينا ناخد مثلا when we're on a sales enablement program. الكلاينت بيكلمنا ان لوك عاوزين احنا نطورهم in the sales, we want a different mindset. excellent. السؤال بتاعنا مش هم فين دلوقتي وبيعملوا ايه، السؤال المدراء بتاعتهم بيعملوا ايه. لانه المدير اللي هيقعد يقول لك التيم بتاعي محتاج تريننج بس انا مش هتغير، مش هنستفيد. الراجل هيطلع التريننج، هيرجع اليوم اللي بعديه هيبص المدير والمدير عايش ازاي وبيعمل ايه. He says, why would I change? Why would I do something different? It is a mindset. And very often we talk about attitude. If every layer of the organization does not bring that right attitude, that sense of positivity, the sense of resilience, that mindset that we can conquer anything, if it doesn't come الهرم اللي موجود ده, and it starts at the very top, it's not going to change. So transformation is possible. And I think it's a very important aspect. If an organization is pursuing performance alone, it's not that it's going to fail on paper. لا الأرقام موجودة، الفلوس جاية. From all measures, they're succeeding. But for how long? People get tired. We spend, you're right, 9 ل 5 ده حاجة يمكن كانت موجودة من 40 سنة. not in my professional career على الأقل. بس إذا إحنا متوقعين إنه حد يجي الشغل ويكون موجود من 9 الصبح ل 9 بالليل، أو إذا أنا مديره أكلمه على الويكند and I expect him to answer the phone. then we have to realize that people are not coming to work. They're spending 12 to 15 hours a day in that environment. And if you take away our sleeping hours, أنا بقعد في البيت 3 ساعات
صح
والبقية في الشغل.
صح.
That's our home. if we, as a leader, if we think of the environment اللي عندنا as the home environment, طب ازاي أنا I want to create an amazing environment for my kids, for my parents, for my brothers, for my sisters, whatever it might be that your makeup of the family. Why would it be any different in the in the work environment when people are there 12 ساعة في اليوم? So we have to approach it in that perspective. And I think it lost its ways. أنا فاكر in I will date myself دلوقتي. When I started my professional career in the 90s, I remember the tech boom لما كنا نخش, and my first job was in a technology firm, and they دخلنا وكان الباريستا اللي موجود كل يوم الساعة 4 بيجيبوا the fruit bowl. يوم الجمعة we finish early وبيجيبوا لنا, it's like a little party. Many companies went down that path and they realized that it's superficial. It's nice, but what is the culture?
Yes.
Gallup has a very, very important question on their famous Gallup 12 survey, which is probably the most famous engagement survey out there. And one of the questions on that survey is, do you have a best friend at work? And I think that question speaks volumes at what the working environment should be like. If my team is escaping work to go to their best friend, to their home, to their other life, I'm failing as a leader. That mindset or that environment and that culture is not the right culture. Now, I'm not saying that in every company, everybody should be running to the office كل يوم. I'm so excited to be here. وعاوز أبقى هنا 12 ساعة وهشتغل على weekend. Of course not. We need to create that balance also. But I think it's very important that we recognize when people feel they belong, they feel they have a best friend, they feel their leader walks the talk. When I will not ask somebody to do something I've never tried before, I've never done before. These are all very important elements. And it's driven from the top down. Companies that fail very often, you just have to look at the CEO. You have to look at the SVPs. It's not the frontliners. They may not be doing their best, but they're also looking upwards and saying, well, if they're not going to do it, why would I? If they don't value me, why would I value the work that I put in?
وفي firms أو شركات بيبقى عندهم موظفين قد يكون بعض الناس مش شايفين the real values الموجودة، لأن هم موجودين في 9 to 5 job كل يوم بيعملوها، لكن هم عندهم values من جوه. عشان كده احنا ساعات بنشوف ال HRs بيعملوا talent acquisition أو حتى بيexplore the talents within the firm أو within the corporate. إزاي هنا النهاردة أنا top down محتاجين إن احنا نشوف أكتر ال people نقول لهم لا you have a real value، مش إن أنت النهاردة مشيت هجيب اي حد مكانك يعمل نفس الحاجه. هو الدنيا ما بتقفش على حد، صح، بس I believe ان احنا بنسيب زي ما انت قلت في الاول، انك لما بنمشي بنسيب امباكت. مش لازم نمشي من الدنيا، ممكن نمشي من الكومباني، مش لازم ان الدنيا تقع، لا، ما هو الشركات بتكمل، بس نسيب امباكت. ازاي الليدرز ان اطلق عليهم ليدرز، لان كلمه ليدر دي مش اي حد توب ليفل، صحيح، هو انا ممكن حد يبقى فرونت لاين وليدر على فكره. فازاي الليدرز دول يدوا مساحه للناس ان هم discover their own values ويحطوها قدام الناس عشان يعرفوها ويقدموها.
I'm going to give you 2 examples. And one example is somebody that I've always admired as a leader. And that was the CEO of Southwest Airlines, Herb Kelleher. Herb Kelleher had an amazing ability. ما اعرفش يعني إذا في حد مثله that I've come across these days. But he knew every single employee's name, their family, how many kids. And you're talking about thousands upon thousands of employees in an airline. اللي بيشتغل على الطيارة، اللي بيشتغل بالهانجر، اللي بيشتغل ميكانيكي، اللي بيشتغل الفرونت ديسك، الcheck-in counters. He knew them all. And he would go around, he would greet people every day when he did his various tours. هيطلع على الهب بتاعهم أو يطلع مكان تاني أو هيخش يشوف a particular hangar. He would recognize the person, greet them by name. All of these elements that made people feel valued. And I think that's very important. That's to me the definition of leadership as a... طبعا I'm not saying that every CEO out there should go and learn 2, 3, 4, 10,000 people's names and their family and who their kids are. But it shows you the quality of the relationship. And العلاقات دي, this is where the key is. When I feel that I have a relationship with my leader, that they value me as a human being, it changes the dynamic.
طبعا.
When Southwest faced the unfortunate incident after September 11, they had to, for the first time, to lay off thousands of employees. Herb called an all-hands meeting and he addressed them, tears in his eyes. And people got up with tears in their eyes and thanking him for terminating their contract. Because they felt that the greater good of the organization was really the key. And if that's what the CEO needed to save the organization and the industry that it's in, then هم كأنه بيضحوا نفسهم. That speaks volumes on that. So to me, that quality in great leaders build relationships, regardless of the performance. That does not mean that والله أنا عندي relationship جميلة جدا مع حد والperformance بتاعه is non-existent. معلش نخليه. لا, of course not. You're running a business. But it's finding how can I leverage that relationship to have that person want to develop more, want to produce more, want to have better performance numbers. The second example I'll use is about empowerment. And I talk about this a lot in my keynote speeches. If anybody has ever watched me, they've heard me discuss this. The Ritz-Carlton is a very famous example. The Ritz-Carlton كل employee عندهم عالميا عندهم القدرة to authorize any client request up to $2,000 per day without managerial approval. كانت $1,000 من كام سنة they doubled it to $2,000. Now طبعا they're in the hospitality sector.
Yes.
With the idea behind them, we're a luxury brand. People pay a lot of money to be in this hotel. إذا حد عنده مشكلة they can solve it. مش عاوز أنا الامبلويي البيل بوي الفرونت ديسك يقول للجست ممكن بس هروح أسأل المدير. Get it done. أهم حاجة الكاستمر. Now طبعا from a guest experience it's phenomenal. And if anybody stayed at a Ritz-Carlton they know what you're going to expect. But that's not where the trick is. The trick is the fact that كل employee موجود في Ritz-Carlton بيحسوا نفسهم إنه أنا
I'm a decision maker.
I can solve any
طبعا.
problem. أي مدير أنا مديري.
طبعا.
أنا عندي القدرة أي حاجة. وطبعا there's checks and balances. They
طبعا.
fill a report at the end of the day.
طبعا.
غرفة كده وكده كان محتاج ليمو جبت له whatever it is. Well, there are employees at the Ritz-Carlton that will never use that allowance. الراجل بيشتغل بالمطبخ مثلا. مين اللي هيجي إنه مشكلة مع الجست اللي هيقدر يحلها من هناك؟
صح.
But they know إنه أنا I have that ability. And I think the more we empower staff to make them feel that they own the responsibility, they own the outcome, they own the problem, and they have the power to fix it. Don't keep running and do it. هيكون في أغلاط طبعا. هيغلطوا هنا هيتعلموا. That's it. This is the key that comes out of this here. So to me, this notion of be a leader who builds relationships. People stay with companies because of that relationship. They don't stay because of the pay. Because if you're paying them top dollar, guess what? Your competitor is looking at them.
طبعا.
Your best employee is your competitor's best talent potential.
صح.
And they're going to try to steal them. So they're not staying there for the money. And if you're only valuing that إنه حد يمكن يترك حدي بونس هعلي له salary. That's nice. But بكرة أو اليوم اللي بعديه أو الأسبوع اللي بعديه they're going to leave you anyway. But when you build a relationship, people don't want to leave their best friends. They don't want to leave the environment where they feel comfortable. وفوق كده you empower them where they feel إنه I don't have to keep reporting to my manager on every tiny thing. أنت قلت قبل كده المايكرو مانجمنت. And this is where that environment starts from the very top. And every manager has that potential. I can become a great manager مع الرغم انه يمكن المدير بتاعي انا is not a good one. But every person has that potential. You have to wake up one day and say, I may not change the world, but I'm going to take every small step possible to make that change happen.
بس ادوارد، احنا المايند سيتس بتاعتنا مش شبه بعض. ايفن البرينز بتاعتنا والستايل اوف ثينكينج، لايك البيبل الفيجنري، البيبل الميشنري اللي بيتكلموا اكتر بالاناليسيز وبالمخ او العقل التحليلي، والعقل اللي هو بنقوله ايه اللي هو الفيجوال او اليلو بارت، اللي هو الناس اللي
conscientious side versus the
بالظبط المخ اللي هو التحليلي versus المخ الابداعي. وبالتالي تلاقي في نوع من انواع المانجرز او المديرين يفكروا ان احنا ما ينفعش نصاحب او يبقى عندنا الناس اللي تحتنا، حتى لو اللي تحتي ده دايركتور. يعني انا لو سي سويتس مثلا او سي او او كده او اكزيكتيف ليفل وتحتي دايركتورز، لا ما ينفعش ابقى مصاحبهم. ليه؟ علشان ما خليش في نوع من انواع الباريرز او الباوندريز دي. انا بشوف ده نوع، ده مش ليدر، ده مانجر اكتر، لان هو he doesn't trust his values و others values. وان حتى بيبقى فيه ليفل. يعني احنا كان زمان الناس تنادي بعض بالالقاب، مستر، دكتور، كذا. النهارده ما بتناديش بالالقاب، بس الريسبكت ما زال موجود خلاص. ازاي النهارده يبقى عندي واحد في اكزيكتيف ليفل وتحته ناس يقدر يعمل فريندز معاهم او يخليهم فريندز او يبني علاقه صداقه فريندشيب، ويحافظ برضه على ان هو لما يطلب منه حاجه التاني زي ما بنقول كده بالباقي يديله عينيه.
I think هنا we have to define العلاقات. right? أنا مش عاوز إنه يكون صحاب. right? إحنا لأنه بآخرتها لسنا زملاء. And there is a hierarchy. أنا ما أقدرش. Very few companies في العالم, there's one only that's properly documented, that they created a flat organization, completely, it's called the holacracy. There's no hierarchy, and that's Zappos.com في أمريكا. But it's very, very difficult to maintain. And the reality is, أنا مش عاوز كمدير أكون صحاب أو مع زملائي أو my direct reports. But I want to build a trusting relationship. I want to build a relationship based on respect. I want to base it on integrity. That's the relationship. لما أتكلم على العلاقات, definition بتاعتها is that. That does not mean that ممكن يوم ده it develops to صحاب. I've been in that position. الله يرحمه, the most dearest leader I had, who probably paved the way for who I am today. What started as a relationship from manager or director to me as a new person developed over time. It was always based on respect. It was always based on integrity. It was based on transparency. All of these elements were there. بالسنين it developed to something much deeper, and it became a genuine friendship. That can happen. So I don't think managers have to be afraid of crossing that line. They should not seek it. They should know, my priority is I build a trusting relationship. الثقة اللي الموجودة هناك, it has to be a very strong one. Respect طبعا, the mutual respect اللي موجود. So that's a very big element. And I think to answer the question in a different way, what's missing today, we lack emotional intelligence. الذكاء العاطفي, and I heard somebody the other day mention it, that maybe الذكاء العاطفي is not the right word, but الذكاء الانفعالي. And I thought that's an interesting perspective on it. Maybe that's more accurate than العاطفي بتاعنا. The more we are, the more emotionally intelligent we are. ومع الرغم I could be an analytical person و highly left brain, but that does not mean or negate that I cannot convey emotional intelligence. My sense of social awareness, my sense of righteousness, social capabilities and interactions, self-awareness. ازاي انا I come off to other people. ايه السترينجز اللي عندي اياها وايه الضعف اللي عندي اياها that I have to work on. I think that is a skill set today that leaders they don't take it as seriously as they should. And it's a skill unlike so many other things that we can learn and develop and improve. And I think that's something that may be lacking in today's work
skill or
environment.
talent?
I think it's a skill. I think there are some people who it's a talent because it's almost naturally in there.
صح.
كلنا عندنا حد بنعرفه بحياتنا, either personal life or somebody we've come across in our professional lives, that they come off as this natural aura where it's easy to make friends, it's easy to put them in an awkward social interaction and they get along. They look at themselves and they're honest about ايه الفاليو بتاعهم وايه الحاجات النقص اللي عندهم. So there are of course people like that, but generally speaking, unlike cognitive intelligence, where like IQ versus the intelligence quotient versus the emotional quotient, for most of us ال IQ بتاعنا it doesn't change after the age of 11 12. يعني if you took an IQ test at age 11 ورجعت عملته at age 40 or 50, chances are it's the same score. EQ, on the other hand, is it can be a developed skill. It requires work, time, effort, energy. It requires somebody to feel, I want to improve in that direction. And if they put in the time and effort, they can do that. And I think from a leadership perspective, just as much as a frontliner, and you said something very important earlier, even a new joiner, a frontliner with the lowest title in the company, has the opportunity to be a leader. So I think every one of us has this responsibility. Develop that skill set. It'll serve you on so many levels. You grow as a human being, you grow as a leader, as a parent, as a brother, as a son or daughter, whatever it might be. You're building a great dynamic that is very much based on relationship management and social interaction.
The highest level من ال EQ أو ال emotional intelligence هو اللي بنطلق عليه كاريزما، صح؟ أو حتى الجين زي بيقولوا عليها ريز، ما بيعرفوش كاريزما بيقولوا عليها ريز. فده التوب ليفل، يعني يقول لك الشخص ده كاريزماتيك. وده أنا بشوفه إن هو ده عنده هاي emotional intelligence. بس هي الشركات بتعين على emotional intelligence ولا الانتليجنس كوشنت العادي ولا social intelligence؟
I can tell you today, the assessment centers that we run for our clients, emotional intelligence is a very, very high factor. طبعا أنا عاوز حد when we run the assessments we provide them with a case study, so I want to know the technical capacity is there. We do the role plays to understand social interaction. We run an EQ assessment. I want to know, where does this person excel? That does not mean إذا ما عندوش سكور خلينا نقول out of 100 إذا مش جايب 90 أو 95 خلاص مش هنجيبه. لا, because I know that also that's one skill that I can train on. I can develop them in there. So it is a very important one, and today companies are hiring for that. Every single assessment center that we conduct for our clients, EQ is a mandatory questionnaire.
Because it's behavior at the end.
It is.
هو ده اللي بيحافظ على البيهيفير جوه الشركة. أو صح، لأن لو أنا عندي emotional intelligence قليل وذكائي عالي، طيب أنا ذكي في شغلي بس أنا حواليا بتعامل مع البيبل اللي حواليا، مش عايز أقول stupidity عكس الانتليجنس، ولكن it's a kind of disconnecting البونز، مفيش بونز بيننا وبين البعض. فبالتالي هيبقى الاتيتيود within the company أو البيهيفير بيننا وبين بعض مش أحسن حاجة، صح ولا؟
And I'll tell you, I often remind people the opposite of intelligence is ignorance, rather than stupidity. خلينا نقول. And to me كده, if people can look, I don't want to be branded an ignorant person. I want to learn. I want to open my mind, and I want to have a level of intelligence that comes with that. But the example that you gave is exactly that. Unless your job is to lock yourself in a room and not have any human interaction whatsoever. أنا بتكلم مش بس في الشغل.
Everywhere.
Anywhere. Then sure, you don't need it. But for the most part, every job practically out there, yes, there are even, خلينا نستخدم حرام, I don't want to put the tech people in a particular basket or pigeonhole them, but even a tech person who's, let's say, a coder, and they're staring at their computer screen all day. At some point during their career, They're going to be asked to join a team meeting. They're going to be asked to present the findings. الراجل اللي بيشتغل in a lab وبيطلع كده وبيعمل research. Somewhere in life he's going to or she's going to have to make a presentation. They're going to have to interact with another human being. They're going to have to sell somebody on the idea or the research that they created. That requires an interaction with another human being. So الذكاء ده محتاجينه نحن, and you have to be excellent at your technical skill set. You cannot give up learning and growing and developing in technical capacity. But you can't ignore the emotional contingent, the social awareness, the self-awareness to know where are my dynamics? Do I have that charisma or not?
هو مهم يبقى في كاريزما ولا مهم نبقى عندنا الايموشنال انتليجنس؟ لان الكاريزما دي مش بتبقى شويه هبه من عند الله.
بص احيانا الكاريزما it also rubs people the wrong way. if I'm an introverted person وحد بيخش الغرفه دلوقتي والكاريزما بتاعه I mean
it has an aura.
Yeah, exactly. أحيانا أنا if I was an introvert I would feel extremely uncomfortable.
Yes.
ما أعرفش هكلمه إزاي. مش عاوز أقعد. I hope he doesn't sit at the table next to me. الحاجات دي
ولا يوجه لي كلام.
التوتر اللي بيصير عندنا نحن is enormous. So charisma is very important طبعا. Is it the end all be all? No. I would rather somebody have sound social interaction, sound self-motivation to recognize what they want to achieve than purely charisma. Because again, we've all met somebody where their charisma is phenomenal and they occupy the entire room with their aura, but they're not aware of how that impacts other people. It becomes more about them. And unless you want to be the center of attention, then it defeats the purpose. So and that develops. I think we all have that ability to develop. I was a more shy person as a young teenager, and my even younger than my teenage and my tween years onwards. I didn't necessarily was the largest personality in life or anything of the sort. I was social. I interacted, I was in team sports, in various activities, in acting class, to break out of my shell and all of these elements that were there. But I also found my footing and I realized, I mean, today I get up in front of audiences of 3, 4, 5,000 people to give a keynote. If you asked the 12-year-old version of me, is that possible? That 12-year-old would have laughed.
إزاي ده حصل؟
So I think it's a desire to develop, so going back to that charisma, whether it's charisma or not, I don't know. Other people may be able to describe that, whether that's what I have or not. But what I'm saying is that I put myself in situations where I needed to develop socially. I needed to interact with people. I needed to find my voice. And I needed to find the motivation that gets me up every day to do what I want to do, what I love to do. These are all very important elements. And I think the more that you do that, you develop the various skills that you have. My first public speaking engagement, this is back in Montreal, 1998 was the year. I was giving a 1.5 hour talk to, and I was 25 years old.
The first time?
My very first official talk, right? مش بتاع الجامعة.
Okay.
You know, this was really with an audience of potential clients, nearly 54 of them in the room. I'm talking supposedly as an authority. I picked up, وساعة ونص was the topic that I had. I picked up the glass of water, but I forgot to drink. I did not let go the glass of water ساعة ونص. وأيامها ما كانش عندنا الكليكرز، كان ما اعرفش
البروجيكتور.
ما حدش مش هيعرفوا الاسيتيت بروجيكتور ده والاسيتيت. فانا الازازه معايا الميه وبقلب اسيتيتس وبكتب كده وبكلم. When I videotaped myself again, not with an iPhone وقتها on a nice camcorder. And I looked back and I said, wow, I did okay, but that is not the aura of a public speaker, an authority on the topic. And I think that's where هنرجع للذكاء العاطفي, to emotional intelligence. when you look at these things, you have to be very honest about yourself. طبعا you can look at that and say, this is not for me. I'm in
صح.
the wrong industry, field, whatever it might be.
صح.
Or you could look at that and say, I can do better. الضعف اللي عندي
دي
أنا
نقطة مهمة
is
أوي.
A or B or C. And this takes, by the way, again, we go back, the very first level of EI is self-awareness. And it's recognizing your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, where your development potential
And
is.
how do you see yourself in the future?
Absolutely.
If this can be developed, تتطور ولا لا؟
And this is where you can. I mean, I know from a personal experience, if I look back at that videotape today, it's almost laughable. And alhamdulillah, I've got, when I speak today, I've got people come and say, Edward, how do you make it so easy? How do you make, people that are hanging on every word, and I'm very blessed in that way. ما أعرفش if it's a talent one is born with, but I know for a fact that I was not like that 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and 30 years ago.
بس ده الديفلوبمنت ادوارد. انا بشوف ان احنا برضو ربنا بيدينا التالنتس. انا دارس موسيقى، لكن انا درست موسيقى عشان انا كنت بلعب موسيقى من غير ما ادرس. ف يعني لما اهلي شافوني بلعب موسيقى وانا عندي 5 سنين بلعب على البيانو، فقالوا طيب ليتس ديفلوب ده بالدراسه. فدرست بالكونسرفاتوار، قعدت تقريبا 19 سنه ادرس في الكونسرفاتوار. فمعايا ناس دخلت الكونسرفاتوار علشان يتعلموا موسيقى. طلعنا احنا الاثنين، يمكن انا لحد النهارده بلعب موسيقى، تقريبا بقالي 45 سنه بلعب موسيقى، واللي دخلوا معايا الكونسرفاتوار ويمكن قعدوا بعدي بشويه كمان النهارده ما يقدروش يلعبوا. فانا عشان كده بقول لك في حاجات شويه فيها تالنت ربنا بيديها لنا، واحنا وي ديفلوب. علشان كده انا مش شايف ابدا انك لما تلوك back then لما كنت واقف in front of those people حتى يكوت حاجه في ايدك كنت ماسكها عشان تقلل الاسترس والتوتر. احنا حتى بنقول للناس النهارده كده لما تيجي امسك حاجه تغير وكليكر، ده بيريحنا كتير، بس بتلاقي الناس ماشيين بيتعبوا عنينا. فهي لو انت يلوك باك كده، لا هو ربنا حط فيك تالنت، بس ده كانت الستارت اب الانجن اول ما بدا. خليني ارجع بقى في النقطه دي شويه. where are you coming from؟ يعني كنت دارس ايه، وهل انت عملت كارير شيفت؟
The answer to the last question is yes. I studied business, and this was an unfortunate incident. But when I was 14 years old, was the October 1987 stock market crash. كنا عايشين في أبو ظبي في وقتها. And my dad had this particular satellite station, وكنا بنبص على people jumping off of buildings and الفلوس اللي خسروها. I could see my dad, you know, the impact it has on other investors and so on. And I was mesmerized. So I decided at the time as a 14-year-old, I said, I want to be a stockbroker. Not because that horrible scene was what was attractive. It was how the love or adoration for money could have people jump to their death or do crazy things. And I was mesmerized by how insane that industry was. And at 16, we immigrated to Canada. I started university then, and it was on a business path. I went my very first year in university, went to a university trip to the New York Stock Exchange to see where this desire. And I started to realize it's a version of that career that I wanted. I started my professional career in wealth management and financial services in Canada. I was hired as a young 23-year-old who didn't know much about the industry workings. I had understood kind of the workings of it from a technical perspective. اللي بنتعلمه حاجات كده. But to sit
real
there,
life,
to talk to clients, to assess a portfolio, to plan their taxes والestate وحاجات كده, this was all completely foreign. But I had a leader who took a chance and hired me, and I got trained, and I did terrible in my first 6 months. Out of almost 4,000 consultants across Canada, I was near the 4,000 marker في الأول 8 شهور. And he called me into a meeting and he said, maybe this is not for you. And I said, his name was Ray. He passed away from cancer a couple of years ago. I said, no, Ray, I want to do this. He said, okay, I believe you. And it was that passion, that desire and drive and motivation. He wasn't buying my results, because my results were terrible. Under any other circumstance, they would have fired me months ago. And he said, I want you to take a break, take a week off, relax, enjoy, do whatever. I took 2 weeks. He said, I want you to come back and we've got to sit down. And he invested in me and my time and energy and so on. By my second year, I had moved to top 50 nationally.
Oh, wow.
By my third year to top 30. My fourth year, I became division director, recruited my own team. By my seventh year, I became regional director and moved to Toronto. And it grew and grew. Now, it could have been a natural talent. نرجع لل your background in music, where الهبة كانت القدرة أو الهبة كانت موجودة بيك, versus somebody who went in to learn it, but they couldn't sustain it. So I think that for a lot of us, we sometimes need somebody
believe in you
who peels apart the orange, let's say, to find what's inside. التالنت ممكن موجود. You're right. أحيانا من ربنا we see people who say, wow, we call naturally talented. People who run mathematical equations in their brain and say, you could not have learned that. طبعا, that is a God-given talent. But if somebody does not discover it, it's wasted. We need both sides. We need ourselves to know, what are we passionate about? Do I have a talent I'm unaware of? And sometimes we need that person to say, you don't know the talent that you have. Let me help you. Let me shape that. So that was I did that from 1996 when I joined the organization till 2010. So it was a good career. In 2010, I moved to Dubai. And that came about from a very dear friend. We went to university together. We worked together at that wealth management company. He went back to Greece to join the family business. And in late 2009, he called me up. He said, Edward, إيه رأيك نخش نبتدي business بس في دبي مش في كندا وإحنا في اليونان أنت you will run it, come set it up. I thought about it, and April of 2010, I packed up, moved to Dubai to start a business that was completely different than wealth management, to get into management consulting. Into culture transformation, into learning and development and capability building was a completely different experience. But there was something identical in both. It's about people. It's about relationships. So مع الرغم it was a complete shift in my career or industry, the fundamentals that I learned in one industry that alhamdulillah I was successful at was applied to yet again here.
ايه اللي يخليك تتحرك من مكان you are very successful in to move to uncertainty in location, geographic location و new business؟ يعني انا اعرف انا ابدا new business in a place انا قاعد فيه بقالي فتره، فانا عارف الماركت داينامكس عامله ازاي، فابدا البيزنس بتاعي اخد بيبي ستيبس الاول لكن ان انا اقرر ان انا هبني بيزنس جديد في مكان جديد، الليفل اوف uncertainty هنا عالي جدا. Was that a calculated risk?
Maybe it was more of a whim than it was I wouldn't say it go as far as a calculated risk. We go back to this notion of self-belief, right? And if you put your mind to something, it doesn't mean it's guaranteed to succeed, but you're doing everything in your power to do so. So part of it was I was intrigued by the opportunity. As human beings we become very complacent. في ناس كتير لما يوصلوا لمرحلة in their career كل حاجة كويسة، الفلوس جاية.
Why to change?
I got the house, I got the car, I got this and that, and by nature human beings are complacent. And that scares me. complacency is not something I enjoy and to coast. خلاص عملنا اللي علينا. And there's a reason when I got promoted to division director and regional director, I moved from Montreal to Toronto. I had to build a region from scratch. So it was yet another challenge.
In principle انت متعود انك to build something from the scratch.
To a large degree, and that's exactly what I did in all three of those roles. فلما جاء طبعا الopportunity اللي بعديه كان انه ابقى في نفس الشركة. I can move up to a different role at headquarters, أغير مرة تانية. Or an opportunity to have that entrepreneurial spirit go somewhere. And maybe in part of it, I don't know if my dad knows this, but my dad was an entrepreneur. He's an engineer. He had a full-time job, like many engineers. You go in and he worked for one of the biggest companies in the region. He was stationed in Libya. We were stationed in Bahrain. And then he picked up and came to Abu Dhabi and set up a company and with a business partner. And they built an irrigation and contracting company in Abu Dhabi for years.
Is it genetic? تفتكر?
So
entrepreneurship?
It's very interesting because my two brothers followed different paths.
بس ده طبيعي مش لازم كلنا نبقى زي
طبعا. So does it skip a gene? Does it somebody has it? طبعا it could be. And I think it could be partly genetic. It could be also that's the role model.
إدوارد لما جيت انت حكيت في النص على your mentor حسيت حاجة في عينيك كده يعني حسيت ان في story behind this mentor. ليه حسيت كده في عينيك في حاجة
A very emotional topic. He was one of those people who's larger than life. I think a lot of this notion of be in the service of others I got from Ray. He believed in not just me, but so many like me who've joined the company. He taught me a lot of the fundamentals and the values. When the promotion came in Toronto, many another leader would have said, no, he's my talent. But he's the one that said, apply. And I said, I'd have to move to Toronto. You take the risk. This is made for you. This is your opportunity. This is your calling. All of these examples that were there, and it was very upsetting early in my career and in his life. He was 38 years old when he was first diagnosed with cancer. And at one point they thought it was terminal. They had given him a mere months to live. But Ray managed to beat that as well and lived several years after that, got cancer again, but they caught it early. And then the third bout of a completely different cancer, unfortunately, took him away from us just after COVID. He didn't make it. But that's the individual who while it started as a boss-employee or manager-employee relationship, developed into a friendship. And it was based on trust, the foundation. It was based on mutual respect. It was based on integrity. It was based on doing the right thing. What we started the conversation with, that's one of the things I've often learned from Ray is that it's not worth the anxiety. It's not worth the guilt in doing something that you feel is not right just for the sake of doing it. You've got to really, you have to live with yourself when you go through that.
بتشوف ازاي النهارده you can pay him back?
I hope I can, and I hope I have been. And I think it comes back to this notion of we give of ourselves. And over the years, I've invested an enormous amount of time in my people. Does it pay off all the time? No. Do people turn on you? Sure, it's life. Do people fail? Of course. Do I change and say, look at that, it wasn't worth it? Countless hours, countless days, countless months. No, you keep at it. And I think to me, one of the elements that I take from Ray is he's always seen the good in people. He's always seen, look, try to help them here, try to do this, try to do that. And that was an important element. but he's also taught me it's a two-way street.
صح.
ده مهم جدا انه انا مش هعمل انفستمنت بنفسي لحد هو مش هيعمل انفستمنت في نفسه حقيقي. It's a two-way street and he's always reminded me of that does not mean that والله انا I will wait for them to take the first step. No, as a leader you put yourself out there. Will you be burned? Yes. Will you hurt at times? Yes. Will you see people fail? Absolutely. Does not mean that you stop. Does not mean that you don't wake up the next day and say, you know what, I'm going to invest in you. I'm going to help this person and that person and do this. That we can't change. The minute you change that, you become a very vindictive, negative person. Nobody wants that around. And so for me, it was an early lesson that I got firsthand from Ray, and I saw him do it thousands, not hundreds, thousands of times after that. And it stays with me to this day. Invest in people, be there for them. And especially those that want to do this for themselves. They have that spark. Your job is to nurture it. That's what a leader does.
كم واحد النهارده ادوارد يقول ادوارد زي ما ادوارد بيقول راي؟ يعني انت راي عند كم واحد؟
I don't know. I mean I always أنا بقول لنفسي إنه I can never fill the void that Ray left or يعني I put him in a high regard in esteem because he was to me larger than life as a human being, as a leader, as so many things. I've been very fortunate. I to this day, in fact, it was about 3 or 4 weeks ago, somebody sent me a message on LinkedIn. They said, Edward, and they recounted the date that they had been in one of my sessions, and they told me how it was life-changing, that they're applying the principle. This is some 14 years ago, that he applies these principles today. And I'm very humbled by that. I don't, it's not my path that, you know, every individual, I want to be of service of others, but ما أقدرش to keep track of كل حد. I come across thousands of people in so many of these sessions. I've delivered sessions to physicians, 10, 15,000 at a time. I hope in some way, all of these people I've had even this half the impact that Ray's had on me. If I can achieve that for them, alhamdulillah, I'd feel very blessed.
Edward, just imagine كده use بقى your right brain شوية في imagining هنا. لو انت ماشي مع Edward, he's 10 years old. Okay. النهارده you're holding hands كده وبتتمشوا. تفتكر 10 years old Edward بيبص لك ويقول لك ايه؟ يسألك في ايه؟ بتتكلموا في ايه؟
I think he might ask how, because the 10-year-old version was a young kid who couldn't quite find his footing, had good friends, but that social dynamic, the growth and so on. I think my advice to my 10-year-old self, if we were walking, would be live, take risks, be strong. Because life is going to try to put you down, whether it's a bully at school, your first job, not fitting in university. There's so many things that happen. Your first heartbreak. It's a million things. And we don't learn. I think even as parents, we don't take the time to teach children resilience. And in today's world, boy, is it a necessity. We need, and I people mistake resilience for thick skin. With thick skin أحيانا I don't like that because
مش sensitive خلاص بنسميها تبلد. مش هتفرق.
We become distant from the world. الحاجات nothing bothers me. No, I want to feel things.
Yeah.
But that resilience is a different dynamic. It's this element of I'm gonna get cut. وهرجع بكرة. Somebody's gonna whack me on the head and I'm gonna wake up and do it. That resilience is very important. You're not gonna develop the thick skin where it doesn't bother you anymore when things roll by. That's not a good skill.
لكن 10 years version of you أو back هيبص لك I was proud.
I would think so. I would hope so. I feel there's so much more that I need to do. And maybe I'll never reach that point where I can pause and say, خلاص وصلنا.
never.
This is the
احنا
ideal.
9 من 10.
There we go.
Yeah.
It couldn't have been more perfect there. I think we continue to grow, and I feel that as much as, again, don't get me wrong, I'm aware enough to count my blessings, and I do consider myself so very blessed to have had the life that I've had so far, to have had the opportunities that I've had, the successes that I've had, and the failures that I've had. All of that has been a blessing. We have worked with enormous clients. I've met amazing people. I've traveled. I've done so many things. And I continue to do whatever I can to give back, to help, to grow the business, to work with people. And there's more to be done. So I do hope that, yes, that my 10-year-old version would look at with some sense of level of pride. But I would also hope that the 10-year-old self would tell me, keep going. There's more.
احنا عشان وقتنا بقى عندي أسئلة كتير بس I will go for more 2 questions. الجنزي اللي موجودين النهارده وده التطور الطبيعي بتاع الحياة، طالعين بليفل مختلف من الاندرستاندينج، من السكيلز، وبيشوفوا الحياة شوية it's more about trend مش about delivering values. ويشوفوا الفاليو بتاعتهم هم ما اعرفش، هو في مسكونسبشن حتى عنهم من الكوربريتس. انت النهارده ازاي شايف الكوربريتس محتاجين يشوفوا ايه في الجنزي، خصوصا النهارده كمان بييجوا بيدوروا على جوبز اونلاين؟ فهل يخشوا على لينكد ان؟ هل ده الجود بلاتفورم ده او البروبر بلاتفورم اللي بيدوروا فيها على الجوبز، ولا في تولز تانية؟ ازاي يكتبوا السي فيز او الريزومي بتاعتهم؟ هل في طريقه معينه يكتبوا فيها؟ هل في سكيل معينه الكوربريتس مستنيه تشوفها في الريزوميز بتاعتهم، خصوصا ان بقت كلها فلترد باي اي اي؟ ازاي النهارده لو حد من جنزي بيشوفنا يكتب ريزومي او سي في زي ما بنقول كده في هوك في الاول يو كاتش او يكليك مع الامبلوير او اللي حاطط كده؟
I do think they're a little misunderstood. There is a misconception, and it's partially there, that generation, it's the what's in it for me. أنا بخش الشغل أو I take a job اللي هيطلع مش الفاليو اللي أنا هديه،
صح.
it's اللي هيجيني أنا. And look, as human beings, and I always remind people, our default setting as human beings is selfishness.
ماشي.
And we have to develop out of that.
Yeah.
We're trained this way. ببص ليا, for me, I want. And we grow out of that to become more selfless. So they have that in there, of course, as many other generations might have had. But I think the point that you bring up, it's highlighting the skills for today. And I'm not talking about being the next coder or AI guru or whatever. Yes, of course, these skills are needed, and in one industry versus the other. And yes, if I'd gone to medical school and I wanted to be a doctor, I want to prove that, look, you know, I have X hours of surgery or X flying time if I want to be a pilot. But companies are not looking for that. That gets the job done. That does not keep you in the company and have you grow. That requires the other skills we've been talking about. And I think one of the skills that's also underrated, problem solving. Every leader I speak to today, if they were to ever simplify what the task is, they want people to solve problems. Whether the problem is complex and it's tech-based or whatever it might be, or it's a client relationship to be fixed, or a breakdown in a server or a system. Today we need problem solvers. And sometimes those problems are relationships.
So?
I think that writing a CV today, you have to look at what am I showcasing? You can put experience. You can, to me, I want to, I'll give you the example. I've been doing this for nearly 30 years of hiring. I look at where in their CV they've put their hobbies. That's the very first thing I look at.
Really?
I don't care what their last job. That's the first. Doesn't mean I ignore the rest of the CV, but that's the very first place I look.
تفرق معاك ايه الهوبيز؟
So if the person plays chess, versus if the person plays football or basketball. One is an individual sport, if we can call it activity. The other one is a team. Doesn't mean that the chess is wrong and this one's right. But if that person was in a team sport, it tells me a little bit more about them. It tells me that they had to get along. Let's say we'll take football as the example. They had to get along with 10 other people on the pitch. They had to figure out how they're going to coordinate. How are they going to use signals, not spoken word. Similarly in any other group sport. The person who plays chess tells me they're highly analytical. They value their peace. And I know if I'm going to hire that person and I'm going to hover over them and micromanage them, I'm going to kill their talent. Versus the other person who's been used to, there's a coach, there's a manager, there's an assistant coach, the dynamic, there was a team captain, they're
hierarchy, في hierarchy.
These tiny things tell us a great deal about a human being. And while I care about their technical capacity and other things they've done, sometimes it's that's the hook. And you'd be surprised, leaders look for that. It's a definition of a person beyond the scope of what a CV tells us.
إدوارد، أنا صيدلي، اتخرجت من كلية صيدلة وعملت السي في بتاعي، بس كتبت إني بلعب موسيقى ومتخرج من أكاديمية من الموسيقى. هو ده اللي شغلني. I was lucky at that time. أنا مش عارف هل الناس النهاردة بتشوف ده ولا لأ، بس هو فعليا يمكن أنا كمان لما باجي كنت بهاير بيبل كنت أسألهم دايما سؤال: أنت بتعمل إيه تاني في حياتك علشان لما تبقى stressed تروح تعمله؟ وما يعرفش قيمة الحاجة دي غير الشخص اللي عنده حاجة تانية يعملها. لأن ساعات بلاقي أسئلة، في واحد قال لي بنزل أتمشى. كمان كلنا بننزل نتمشى. انا عايز سكيل، وانا متاكد ان ربنا زي ما ادانا فينجر برينتس، كل واحد فينجر برينت، كل واحد ادانا حاجه بنعرف نعملها احسن من غيرنا، ايا كان، ان شاء الله طبخ او اي شيء. فدايما كنت بستراجل اني اطلع من البيبل هم بيعرفوا يعملوا ايه تاني. اللي دايما كنت بحب اعينه او يبقى موجود معايا في التيم اللي بيعرف يسبيل اوت هو بيعرف يعمل ايه. وانا عشان كده باجري معاك جدا في النقطه دي، ان دايما لازم الواحد فينا يبقى عنده حاجه تانية بيعرف يعملها. بلاقي ناس تيجي يقول لي مثلا انا بحب اعمل كده وبطلتها الحمد لله. ليه يا حبيبي بطلتها؟ عشان ابقى مركز في الشغل. هل دي حاجه انت لو بطلتها انت بتفرحني يعني؟
I think that's the problem. انه هم فاكرين I'm trying to sell you on my
to please you.
انه انا devoted هنا. عاوزني 20 ساعه في اليوم حبه.
انا مش هروح العب كوره، انا هفضل معاك.
I mean this is unrealistic. انا مش محتاج حد اللي fatigued to a level where they cannot produce.
طب احنا محتاجين ناس تعمل نفس اللي احنا بنعمله.
انه نفس الحاجات اللي احنا بنحبها ولا
لا؟ يعني انا مثلا باجي ألوك فور حد يشتغل معايا، انا بدور على الحد اللي بيعرف يعمل حاجه انا مش بعرف اعملها كويس، ولا يعمل الحاجه اللي انا بعرف اعملها كويس عشان اكلم I can manage اي واحد
I think there's a bit of both. اولا انا اذا اقدر اجيب حد في التيم اللي يقدر يعمل الحاجات اللي انا بعملها ويمكن يمكن احسن مني او حيتطور لدرجه انه حيكون احسن مني، ده بفضي وقتي انا. فكليدر انا محتاج ناس that have those skills اللي عندي اياها انا. لانه اولا انا عاوز I want to empower them. I want somebody who can replicate me عشان اكبر، عشان افضي هنا دماغي اطلع افكار جديده. ازاي نساعد another client to grow the business، حاجات تانية اللي محتاجها. So we need that. But we also need the complementary and sometimes competing thought process. حد اللي they challenge us. ومرات بنكون هنا على الترابيزه كده like you want to tell them you're wrong or I disagree with you, but you don't، لأنه that's healthy. البرسبكتيف المختلف، السكيلز اللي أنا ما عنديش إياها هم بيجيبوها. we need that dynamic in the team. And early on إذا حد دلوقتي as an entrepreneur setting up a business, you're not looking to create your clone.
صح.
محتاج that various dynamic. If I created my clone هنبقى كلنا complacent. أولا not all of us are going to run the company. I mean, there's going to be one CEO, one VP, multiple VPs, directors. There's different dynamics. So you need to bring that element there. But definitely find somebody who can remove, as a leader, remove from your shoulders some of the responsibility. And you know they're going to do it. They have the same skills, the capabilities, maybe the charisma, the aura, or the personality, the social skill set. That's fantastic. But you're right to look for those elements اللي موجودة دلوقتي, and we do not highlight them. And I'll use the 3 examples. الشطرنج, الchess, the football, the person who loves to play football, and خلينا ناخد الطبخ. الكومناليتي فيهم هدف.
صح.
الهدف الطبخة.
There is a goal.
حاجة جميلة جدا. It's tasty. Football is football. I have to أسجل الهدف. And chess is the checkmate.
Yeah.
There are حد يقول لي أنا بتمشى. Nice, but I will take as opposed to مثلا swimming. It's a commitment. I will ask further. Is it swimming إنه you tell me swimming but really you're sitting by the pool وبتنزل عشان تبرد وترجع, ولا is it genuinely? So getting to know people, even if it's the most basic yoga, Pilates, weight training, all of this, it tells a lot about a person. And this is where you brought up AI briefly earlier on. This is where AI, people who are preparing their CVs with AI, it doesn't capture these elements. And I think one of AI's flaws, and we've been toying with it in different forms, when AI gets it wrong and you correct it and it tells you you're absolutely right.
Yes.
أنا مش محتاجك تقول لي إنه I am right. ما أنا عارف إنه I'm right. I need you to help me. So there are skills that if we're not careful, we will lose as human beings. Value those skill sets, which means also feeding the information to get out what you're looking for. But always have that curious mind. That what the output is, مش هناخده at face value. We need that sense of curiosity, that sense of dynamic that nobody else can provide. It's your personality on paper.
بس firms و corporates بيفلتر الريزوميز والسي فيز بتاعتنا بالاي اي.
They do.
طب يعني انا لما اكتب سي في بالاي اي واللي هيشوف السي في هو اي اي ويفلتر السي في بالاي اي، ما هنا لا هيشوف هوبيز ولا هيشوف البوتنشال اللي عندي بره فكره انا كاتب الكي ووردز او الباز ووردز اللي هو بيدور عليها. طب ما هو هنا هيبقى في عندي، بص ادوارد كلنا كويسين، بس انا بشوف ان في very good people قاعدين في البيت مش بيشتغلوا، وفي ناس بتدور على الناس دي ومش بتوصل لها، رغم ان في اي اي ورغم ان في سيرش انجنز كبيره وبلاتفورمز كتيره بتقدر تحط عليها ريزوميز، بس في جاب في اللينكينج الناس الكويسه اللي قاعده والفيرمز اللي بتدور على الناس دي.
وده الجاب هيبقى دايما، يعني لو نرجع 10 سنين 20 سنه الجاب دايما موجود.
بس التكنولوجيا النهارده تسهل الكلام ده.
It's supposed to تسهل علينا
طبعا.
And I think to a degree خلينا ناخد من 20 سنه an HR person might receive 500,000 CV for one opening. ومش هيقعد يبص على in great detail. We were trained already to skim as an HR person. They skim through the CV. They're trying to find certain areas. The questionnaires اللي بيستخدموها, the pre-selection process. عندك كم سنة كده كم سنة كده. So those systems existed. The technology today has elevated those systems. The qualifying questionnaire, what the trained human eye is looking for is replicated in AI. So you're right to a degree that they've automated certain things that skim through and you're feeding buzzword to buzzword. But at the same time, I know with at least some of our clients, they've also instructed the AI platforms that they're using to look up hobbies, to look up years of service in consecutive order. مثلا, if within the system, and this is from one of our clients, if they have spent in 4 consecutive job companies, less than a year and a half in each of those, 18 months is the cutoff for them, it knocks them out. They're not interested. Now, we were having this conversation, طب ممكن maybe the system is a flaw.
صح.
إذا أنا ابتديت بالشركة دي وبقيت معهم مثلا 14 شهر وكنت هنا سيلز راب، حولت سيلز سوبرفايزر اسمع شركة تانية، وكنت سيلز سوبرفايزر 16 شهر وبقيت مانجر في شركة ثالثة، وبعد كده دايركتور. It may not capture this.
صح.
On paper or to AI, it looks like this person jumped jobs or companies. They're disloyal. So the systems that are meant to make our lives easier are not where we want them to be, without a doubt. They're getting better by the day. We all know that. And it goes back to relationships. I think there's a lot of great people that طبعا, yes, you're right, they're overlooked, and the gap اللي موجود هنا because they're not working on building a relationship and reaching out to people to bypass these systems that are there. Our last 2 hires in my company, they were hired not because they were the best candidate. They were tenacious. Edward, please, I understand. I just want 10 minutes of your time. I'm looking at the CV, I'm thinking there's no way we're hired. I mean, they're good people, but on paper, they would not have made it through the front door.
Yeah.
But the emails, the persistence, the desire, the passion, and they admit, look, I'm sure there are other better candidates. I'm sure you're looking at more experienced. I love that. That person who's willing to fight tooth and nail and go beyond the traditional, but I sent the CV, خلاص. CV, you sent it to an email. That email address receives thousands upon thousands of emails.
ينزل بالطاعة.
Exactly.
انتهى.
What are you willing to do? Are you willing to pick up a phone? Which is, I know, a bit difficult for the generations to come.
Yes.
Are you willing to do a bit of research to find out who's the decision maker? Who can influence the decision maker? Look, today's world is a very competitive world. We have gone, and competition has always existed. It is fierce today. You're not just competing human to human, you're competing human to machine.
Exactly.
And that element means you always have to find your edge. You've got to work hard at it, and that pays off. That persistence, that tenacity, that motivation, that willingness to go a little bit further, do what others are not willing to do, that's what gets noticed.
Machine, they do have IQs, but they don't have emotional intelligence, and they don't have hobbies.
Yes.
Even the hobbies they do, when you play with a PlayStation football match, or now we play with an AI building music, which made our life easier in music creation. But at the end, you can sense this is not natural. This is not human. Everyone has a hobby or has an emotional intelligence. I believe he will beat التكنولوجي دي. هيقدر هو يفايند هيز واي بالطريقه اللي انت حكيت عليها. بس هو الناس بيحسوا ان هم ماشيين على ثين ايس. لما هل يعني اتكلم كل شويه؟ ما هو ويرز كرامتي انا راحت فين؟ ما هو قال لي لا مره او ما ردوش عليا، وكلمت مره تانية قال لي هنبقى نكلمك، خلاص اتكلم تاني ليه؟ طب ما هو هنا برضه هم يعني
Look, I come from a sales background, obviously, in wealth management and even running a company. Sales is a very big part of it. We've been trained that on average, and I've trained on this, it takes 7 no's to get a yes. But most people don't have that strength, that resilience, the tenacity to continue despite the no. Don't call me. You keep at it. And I think it's getting tougher. And we're not in today's environment. We've become so accustomed to the ease of communication, whether you're using WhatsApp or other means and so on. We're not that relationship development is not there. I mean, I today because I come from a different generation as well. I'm a Gen Xer. When I get a WhatsApp message from somebody who wants to do business with me, thinking, you're not gonna أولاً في telephone, but worse, I'll accept an email, but WhatsApp to try to, and look, the younger generation would laugh at me, but there is that aspect that's there where, you know, we come from different generations. That's not to say that I wouldn't do it with a client, and I expect if somebody wants me as a client, there's got to be a better way to reach out. But طبعاً, you know, situational, we have to be adaptive and so on. I think the more time that they spend, as you said, as much as we're seeing machine learning, we're seeing the development of AI at enormous speed and capability. The human-to-human connectivity is a very big aspect that, whether that happens down the road, I don't know, but it's our competitive advantage. And for people who are struggling today, They find themselves to be introverted. They don't have the capability or the confidence to pick up the phone or to reach out to somebody. Test yourself, pressure yourself, push yourself a little bit further. The more we can develop that relationship skill set, the social awareness and social implementation, الذكاء العاطفي, all of these, the more that we can build that, that is the competitive advantage today, and it pays off.
في 9 من 10 احنا we're looking always for excellence but not perfection. وحقيقي هنا يعني انا مش عايز ابطل كلام معاك حقيقي. I have millions of questions in my mind يعني. بس هاجي في الحاجة الأخيرة عايزك تسيب like key message, take home message اللي بيشوفونا. either هم بأي generation، هل هم they are looking for jobs ولا هم already بيشتغلوا، هل هم managers، هل هم مايكرو ولا ماكرو، هل هم leaders، هل هم directors، entrepreneurs. ايه المسج اللي انت عايز تسيبها؟ like it's not one size fits all but كل واحد يقدر ياخد value منها.
Look, we have the guiding principle in my company is we have an obligation to leave this world in a far better place in which we found it. And I know that's a very lofty goal, and it's meant to be. It's a very big ask. But the reality is, if I wake up every day and I do one thing that can better the world, and the world includes me, so I'm leaving it in a far better place in which I found it yesterday. And that means for those looking for a job, they're trying to work on their CV, they're unhappy at work, keep that in mind. Find a way to develop yourself. Find a way to find satisfaction in what you're doing today. We were talking about Gen Z before, it's not about the what's in it for me. That does not mean that you should not be selfish. But look around, and the more that you give of yourself and you look for learning opportunities, interactions, the way that you can engage human beings, I think that is the greatest skill that we can all develop. And the more that we do that, success is inevitable in one form or another. And success could very well be as simple as your personal happiness. And that's a huge, huge step. And on the other spectrum, it is enormous success in work and in home life.
Thank you Edward.
My pleasure.
يعني حقيقي it was a very rich discussion but حاسس إن عايز أتكلم كتير. شكرا ليكم وهنتقابل في حلقة جديدة من بودكاست 9 من 10. Thank you Edward so much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. الله يخليك.